Here's some newspaper clippings that illustrate who gets sick. And again, I found that whoever developed illness, whether it's cancer or multiple sclerosis or any of these illnesses, it wasn't accidental. Certain people were disease prone. And in 7 years of palliative care work, looking after terminally ill people dying of cancer, I saw the same thing over and over again. So what were the characteristics of these people? How did they stress themselves without knowing it? So the first, these are newspaper clippings from the Globe and Mail. And this is a story written by a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her name is Donna. Her doctor's name is Harold, and she's married to a guy called Hai. And Hai's first wife died of breast cancer, and now Donna, the second wife, is diagnosed with the same condition. And so she goes to the doctor, and she writes in this article, Harold tells me that the lump is small and most assuredly not in my lymph nodes, unlike that of Hai's first wife, whose cancer had spread everywhere by the time they found it. You're not going to die, he reassures me, but I'm worried about Hai. I wanted the strength to support him, I say. What do you notice about that? Some of you that weren't there last night, what do you notice about that statement? Yeah, her immediate thought is on her husband. So her automatic compulsive thought is not, my God, I'm diagnosed with cancer. How will I cope with it? What kind of support do I need? But the automatic thought is, how will I support my husband? The poor guy, he's already lost his first wife to breast cancer, and I'm diagnosed with it. How will I support him? All the time that I'm receiving chemotherapy and radiation or surgery, how will I support my husband emotionally? So this automatic and compulsive concern for the needs of others while ignoring your own is a major risk factor for illness and stress and burnout, for reasons that I will tell you. These are stories of people who've died. And what you will notice in those obituaries is that the things that are considered to be so wonderful about these people are also the things that killed them. So I want you to consider that one. If you were diagnosed, or if a friend of yours was diagnosed with cancer, is that what you would say? Is that the thing to do is to go back to work and to keep working every day? And all the time that I'm receiving treatment, or you're receiving treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, whatever is needed, you might be sick and all that, just keep working. And keep working till you die. So this compulsion to identify with the work that you do, with the duties that you have, with the responsibilities that you've taken on, rather than the needs of the self, rather than your own needs. That's a big risk factor for illness. It's a big risk factor for burnout, for self-imposed trauma. So this inability to express your feelings, the so-called negative feelings, is a major risk factor for illness. So as I mentioned last night, there was a study in the States a few years ago that looked at 1,700 women, and over a 10-year period, and women over a 10-year period who were unhappily married and didn't express their emotions were 4 times as likely to die as those women who were unhappily married and did express their emotions. The difference wasn't whether they were happy or not. The difference was, did they actually talk about how they felt? Did they express their anger or their hurt? And the ones who didn't were 4 times as likely to die. So the suppression of how you feel is a major risk factor for illness. Here's a woman who died of cancer at age 55. This is in Calgary. She worked for the Calgary Symphony Orchestra. She was a mother of 3. A master at multitasking, she juggled several hockey practices. Now I want you to look at your life, okay? A master at multitasking, she juggled several hockey practices, school board, orchestra, and other extracurricular activities. June 2005 brought terrible news to this mother of 3, by now president of the Parents' Council at Western Canada College, Emergency surgery revealed metastatic cancer. She refused the cloak of illness. She did not give up any of her roles. Like, get that one. She did not give up any of her roles. It's all about roles. She even continued her 5 a.m. bicycle trips around the nearby reservoir. She enrolled in a life coaching course, and upon graduation from the Adler School, she initiated Living Out Loud, a group of women with cancer. All the time that she was having terminal illness. She did not stop for a second. So again, this compulsion to keep working and working and working, even in her spare time, is a major killer. So this business of living out to expectations and never disappointing anybody is a killer. In palliative care, I once was looking after a guy who was the president of a shark cartilage company. You may have heard about shark cartilage. It used to be marketed, maybe still is, as a prevention for cancer. So this guy sold shark cartilage. And then he gets diagnosed with cancer, terminal cancer, and he was still eating the shark cartilage. Now, if you've ever been near this stuff, it smells awful. The stench, you could sense it as soon as you walked in the hall. So I asked him, what does that stuff taste like? He said, it's horrible, I hate it. I said, why do you eat it? He said, well, this is a week before he died. He said, well, I no longer believe that it's going to stop my cancer, but my business partner would be so disappointed if I did. My contention is very simple. What characterizes all these people is they don't know how to say no to all these responsibilities that they've taken on. They don't know how to say no. And my contention is, when you don't know how to say no, your body will say it for you. And it'll say it for you in the form of illness or some kind of a symptom. But what happens is that when you go to the doctor with a rash or an asthmatic cough or an inflammation, they're going to give you the stress hormone cortisol to treat it. But nobody's going to ask you about the stresses that you have in your life. That conversation doesn't come up. So if you have an inflammation of your joints, rheumatoid arthritis, you go to the doctor and they'll give you anti-inflammatories, but they're not going to ask you, what is your body saying no to? And you're not going to ask yourself either, because you don't think of it. And yet that's the most important question. What am I not saying no to? Let me give you an example in terms of rheumatoid arthritis. In rheumatoid arthritis, what happens is that it's called a so-called autoimmune disease. Auto means self. So in the autoimmune diseases, the immune system, which is designed to protect you, actually turns against you. So in autoimmune illness, the immune system, which is meant to be your self-preservation mechanism, becomes your enemy. So the immune system attacks you so that you make antibodies against yourself. Antibodies are cells that protect you and attack bacteria and attack toxins so that you're safe. But in this case, they attack you. So in rheumatoid arthritis, there's something called rheumatoid factor, which is an antibody that attacks the joints. It's like as if the Canadian Army invaded Canada. It'd be like that. The army that's meant to protect you actually turns against you. Let me read you a quote here by a spiritual teacher. He says, your conflicts, all the difficult things, the problematic situations in your life are not chance or haphazard. They're actually yours. They're specifically yours, designed specifically for you by a part of you that loves you more than anything else. The part of you that loves you more than anything else has created roadblocks to lead you to yourself. You're not going to get the right direction unless there's something pricking you in the side telling you, look here, this way. The part of you that loves you so much that doesn't want you to lose the chance, it will go to extreme measures to wake you up. It will make you suffer greatly if you don't listen. What else can it do? That's its purpose. I don't know, have you had that experience, any of you? When you've had people tell you that some terrible thing is the best thing that ever happened to them? Put your hand up if you had that. Some of you have, quite a few of you have. So what are people talking about? What people are talking about is that whatever terrible thing happened brought them closer to themselves. It woke them up to reality. Now the question is, why do we lose reality in the first place? How do we suppress our first nature, and why do we do it? Well, as in Rachel, how do we develop this style of never wanting to disappoint anybody, of always being dutiful, of being responsible for everything, of never saying no? Why do we develop that style, and how does that make us sick? Well, we develop that style in childhood because we have no choice in the matter.